What is going on, my bros? We got an exciting day today. We're gonna be putting the new bumper on the 350Z, so she'll finally be somewhat a whole car again. So let's get to it. Alright guys, it's super freaking hot out here in New Mexico today. It's like 90 something degrees dry heat. So I'm going to show you guys the bumper, then we're going to get it out in the sun. It's a polyurethane bumper from KBD Bumpers, so should be pretty OEM like. I have never experienced their products, but I've heard good things about them. So let's get to looking at it.
Oh, would you look at this?
Yeah. And then we'll throw it in the sun to kind of unfold a little bit, and then we'll get to putting it on the car. Alright guys, so here's the box it came in. It came just like this. Looks like somebody freaking Ace Ventura'd it all the way to my doorstep. Which is crazy because it was only in the mail for like 2 days, but this is how it came. Pretty bulging and ripped up, but we're gonna break into it and hopefully the bumper itself is alright. So let's get to opening it and then we'll get it out in the sun. Alright, so it's definitely all folded up. Looks pretty good so far. Let's put it out in the sun and see if we could get it a little bit straighter and flatter. Comes with a pretty big underguard here, which is crazy because the original bumper didn't have that. I just tossed it, so I can't show you the comparison, but hopefully this doesn't droop from being so big, honestly. If anything, we could probably cut it off, or we'll see how it goes, honestly. But let's stick this out in the sun, see if we can get it a little softer and remolded back into shape, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, so I let this sit out in the sun. It's about 90 degrees here. It took about 30 minutes, and when I was waiting for it, I actually finally read the instructions on this thing, and it basically tells you to do the same thing as just let it heat up for about 10 to 20 minutes. It has what they call memory agent in it, so it basically just forms back to the way that they molded the bumper. Pretty weird material. Polyurethane's pretty crazy. It's pretty rubbery feeling. I'm excited to see how it holds up. Like I said, there's a lot of material on the back, so we might have to trim that. I have a feeling that's gonna sag or something eventually. As you can see, none of the holes are drilled out, so we're gonna pull the 350 in the garage a little bit, and then we'll start messing around with that and drill the holes and see if we can get this thing mounted up. Alright, now we're gonna go ahead and pop the hood. Alright, so now we're gonna just put the bumper on, kind of mock it up a little bit, and then we'll start drilling all these holes out. So let's get that going and we can get to the next step. I got it pretty much lined up and on. The only problem I'm having is with this fender. I think these tabs are a little bent down, so I'm gonna have to do some messing around on this side to get it perfect. But this side is really good so far, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drill the holes on this side and get this side mounted up, and that way I can mess with that side without having to keep readjusting this side a bunch. It's really hard because it's just me out here doing this, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this side all drilled out and set up, and then I'm gonna go for the next side. I got one side in, it's looking really good. Got it all bolted up. The lines are pretty decent. I think once some heat gets in there, it'll mold a little bit better in this area, and I need to figure out how to close the gap on this a little better. I think once I trim all this excess off, there's just like way too much down here, so probably gonna cut it off like right about here, and then I think once that happens it'll stop drooping a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this side all bolted up and I'll show you guys the finished product. So I got it mostly on. I need to run to the hardware store. Instead of doing the bumper screws that came with this, they're pretty crappy and they screw into plastic. So I'm gonna get some bolts to go in there and hopefully it'll close the gap a little bit tighter. So as you can see, I haven't really got this side on all the way, but lines up really well. I just need to get it bolted in. The hood line's really good. The only other thing I could see is, since it doesn't really have any mounting on the bottom, this part's pretty floppy. So sorry for the wind if the audio is kind of crappy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little bracket to attach to the radiator support, and probably to right here on each side. That way this middle part's a little bit more stable. But other than that, looks really good. I'm going to run to the hardware store and then I'm going to get those bolts and make that bracket, and I'll get back to you guys. It's a couple days later. I got a couple nuts and bolts and washers for the bumper, since the plastic screw holes in this bumper were just completely trashed and they didn't feel very secure to begin with. So I took all the plastic inserts out of the fenders so that I could use these bolts, which will be a lot more stable. I'm also going to make some brackets to make the bottom of the bumper a little stable. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So once this bumper's on, it's not totally secure down here. It's kind of floppy. Right now it's not secure all the way, but even when it is, with the screws and everything I had before, this bottom part had quite a bit of motion in it. So I had these metal brackets left over from another project. So I'm gonna cut them down, re-drill some holes, and then we're gonna, let me see if I can show you. And then we're gonna try to mount it to this radiator support, and then just drill a hole in the bottom of the bumper and mount it there, and it should give this a lot more stability. We'll paint it black so you won't even really be able to notice. That's just a temporary fix until we get probably another crash bar that comes down and is a bit more stable, but for now it'll hold the bumper super solid. So let's get to making those brackets, and then we'll take this bumper off, drill the holes, and remount it back on with all our new hardware. So now that I got the brackets all made up and painted, not very well, but I'll probably repaint them. I'm just being impatient right now. So I'm gonna get these brackets mounted up. I'm gonna show you where I'm gonna mount them. So I'm gonna mount them to this radiator support right here, and then there's another one on the other side. So I'm gonna get those mounted. We're gonna put the bumper back on, finish mounting everything up, and then wrap up this install. Alright guys, got it all bolted back up. So you can see it fits pretty damn good. There's just tiny little things that could take care of when we're doing all the rest of the body work. It's way more stable now with those brackets. This bumper is not going anywhere. So there we go, we got the bumper on. It's looking really good. Those brackets made a huge difference. Finished bolting everything up, super solid now. If you get this KBD bumper and you have a 350Z, I would definitely recommend just getting some 1/4 inch flat steel. It's super cheap at the hardware store. Just drill some holes, cut it into the right shape, and bend it, and you got a really good support, way better than it was before. It was flopping all over the place. So one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about before I wrap up this video is a motto I want to start using on this channel, and that motto is never lose sight. I know a lot of you guys have goals that you want to accomplish, and a lot of your goals seem like they're way out of reach. I know I've felt that way before. I have a lot of really big goals, so sometimes they feel almost impossible to accomplish. But if you keep focused and just do a little bit at a time, just make tiny progress towards that goal, eventually you're gonna make it there. An example in my life is this project car, honestly. Whenever I was in high school, of course I wasn't making that much money. I was a high school kid. My parents weren't rich, so I had to do everything on my own. So anything I wanted on my car done, I had to do on my own, which was barely anything. I was trying to work on a car and daily at the same time, which is a really hard task. I know some of you guys do that, and it's freaking amazing. You guys are awesome. It hasn't worked out too well for me, so I'm very fortunate to now be able to have a couple cars that I could choose from when one is down, a dedicated daily and 2 project cars. But it wasn't always like that. I just kept on powering. Still not exactly where I want to be, but I'm getting closer. Building a car straight from scratch, taking it from a salvage car to hopefully one of my dream cars, to an amazing show car, which is something I've always dreamed about having. So this is just a small step. I want bigger and bigger cars, of course, but that's just something I wanted to talk to you guys about, is just to never lose sight. And your goals, while they may seem impossible, if you dedicate your life to them, they're totally not. So with that, you guys have a good one, and we'll catch you on the next video.